Take a second and think back to the last time you saw Jannik Sinner walking onto a tennis court. What do you see? Usually, it's that focused, almost stoic expression, the red hair tucked under the cap, and lately, a whole lot of winning. But if you ask Rennae Stubbs, the woman who famously helped guide Serena Williams through her emotional final chapter at the US Open, there's one very specific thing that Nike needs to get right if they want the Italian sensation to keep this momentum going. It isn't about the tension in his strings or the weight of his racket, it's about the color of his shirt. Believe it or not, we've entered an era of tennis where superstition and style are colliding in the most public way possible. Stubbs recently took to her podcast to deliver what many are calling a brutal warning to the powers that be at Nike. Her message was simple: if you want Sinner to keep lifting trophies, burn the yellow-green kits and keep him in the pink. It sounds like a fashion critique on the surface, but when you look at the cold, hard data of Sinner's 2026 season so far, you start to wonder if the former doubles world #1 is actually onto something. The year 2026 started with an almost impossible amount of pressure on Jannik's shoulders. He arrived in Melbourne for the Australian Open not just as a favourite, but as a man hunting for a three-peat. After a dominant run of form over the last 2 years, the tennis world fully expected the Italian to turn Rod Laver Arena into his personal playground once again. He walked out for that semi-final clash with Novak Djokovic draped in chartreuse, that bright, high-visibility yellow-green that Nike has been pushing lately. It's a bold color, designed to pop against the blue hard courts, but for Sinner, it turned out to be a bit of a curse. In a match that stunned the sporting world, Djokovic didn't just win, he reminded everyone why he's the greatest of all time. Sinner's hopes of a third consecutive Australian Open title evaporated under the Melbourne sun. It was a rare moment of vulnerability for a player who had spent the last 18 months looking nearly invincible. Seeking a quick bounce back, Jannik headed to the Qatar Open in Doha. Once again, he stepped out in that same chartreuse kit. And once again, the result was a shocker. He ran into Jakub Mensik in the quarterfinals, and the young Czech sensation played the match of his life to send Sinner packing early. At that point, the narrative started to shift. Was the pressure of being world #1 getting to him? Was the field catching up? Or was there, as Stubbs suggests, a literal glitch in the aesthetic? Then came that sunshine double. This is the grueling back-to-back stretch of Masters 1000 tournaments in Indian Wells and Miami. It's a test of fitness, mental fortitude, and adaptability. When Sinner arrived in the California desert, there was a noticeable change. The neon greens were gone. Instead, he stepped out in a soft, light pink ensemble. The transformation was instantaneous. He didn't just win Indian Wells, he dominated it. He looked faster, more relaxed, and his ball striking returned to that clinical, effortless level that makes him the most dangerous player on tour. By the time he reached the humidity of Miami, that pink kit was becoming a symbol of his resurgence. He navigated a tricky draw, handled the pressure of the big stages, and ended up lifting the trophy in Florida as well. In doing so, he became only the 8th man in history to complete the sunshine double in a single calendar year. It puts him in the company of legends like Federer, Djokovic, and Agassi. But as Rennae Stubbs pointed out on her podcast, the correlation between the wardrobe change and the trophy haul is too strong to ignore. She essentially told Nike that they shouldn't overthink this. If the man is winning every time he wears pink, why on earth would you put him back in yellow-green? It's an interesting psychological point. Athletes are notoriously superstitious. We've seen it with Rafael Nadal's water bottles and Serena Williams' socks. If a player feels good in what they're wearing, if they associate a certain look with a certain level of success, it changes their internal chemistry. Stubbs, having spent years at the very top of the game, knows that at this level, the margins are razor thin. If a kit makes Sinner feel like a winner, then Nike's job is to keep him in that headspace. However, the celebration for Sinner was incredibly short-lived. Almost as soon as the final ball was struck in Miami, his mind shifted. He told the media, "I don't have a lot of time to adjust." And he's right. The tennis calendar is relentless. We are now pivoting away from the hard courts of North America and heading straight into the grueling European clay court swing. For Sinner, this is a massive moment of reckoning. Last year was a strange one for him on the dirt. Due to a controversial 3-month suspension that sidelined him during the heart of the season, he was only able to compete in 2 major European clay events, the Italian Open in Rome and Roland Garros in Paris. His performance in those 2 tournaments was actually incredible given the circumstances. He reached the final in both. But in both instances, he ran into his greatest rival, Carlos Alcaraz. Alcaraz, who seems to find another gear on the clay, denied Sinner the title on both occasions, leaving the Italian with 2 runner-up trophies and a lot of what-if questions. As we look toward Monte Carlo and beyond, the stakes couldn't be higher. Sinner is currently ranked world number 2, having swapped places with Alcaraz multiple times over the last few months. The battle for that top spot is becoming a 2-horse race that could define the next decade of the sport. But clay is a different beast. It requires more patience, more sliding, and a different type of tactical construction. Sinner's flat, heavy ground strokes are lethal on hard courts, but on clay, players like Alcaraz and a healthy Djokovic can often neutralize that power. The question now is, what will he wear? It sounds trivial, but as Rennae Stubbs highlighted, the visual identity of a champion matters. If Nike listens to her brutal warning, we might see a custom clay court kit that leans into those lighter tones that served him so well in the States. Beyond the fashion, though, the real story is Sinner's evolution. He has shown he can handle the heartbreak of losing a major title defense in Australia and come back to sweep the 2 biggest tournaments of the spring. That kind of mental resilience is what separates the great players from the legends. Sinner's rivalry with Alcaraz is the heartbeat of the ATP right now. While Djokovic remains the ultimate final boss, the Sinner-Alcaraz matches feel like a glimpse into the future. Last year's clay season was dominated by the Spaniard, but Sinner is a different player now. He's more physically robust, his serve has become a genuine weapon, and he's learned how to win when he's not playing his best tennis. The fact that he's already thinking about the transition to clay while the Miami Trophy is still warm shows his elite mindset. He isn't satisfied with the Sunshine Double, he wants the French Open. He wants to prove that he isn't just a hard-court specialist, but a true all-surface king. As fans, we have to appreciate the insight from someone like Stubbs. She isn't just a commentator, she's someone who has been in the trenches with the greatest players to ever pick up a racket. When she talks about Nike needing to stick with the look, she's talking about brand confidence and player comfort. Sinner is the face of the next generation. He is the man Nike is betting the house on to replace the vacuum left by Roger Federer and the eventual retirement of Nadal and Djokovic. So, as we move into the Monte Carlo Masters and the red dirt of Europe, all eyes will be on Jannik Sinner. Will he find a way to finally leapfrog Alcaraz on the clay? Will he maintain the incredible consistency that has seen him reach the business end of almost every tournament he's entered? And, perhaps most importantly for the fashion-conscious analysts like Stubbs, will he be wearing the lucky pink, or will he go back to the colors that saw him stumble in Melbourne? One thing is for certain, Sinner is no longer the underdog. He is the hunted. Every player on tour is watching his film, trying to find a weakness in that impenetrable baseline game. But with the backing of his team and the tactical adjustments he's making, he looks ready for the challenge. The transition from the high-speed hard courts to the slow, tactical grind of clay is the hardest pivot in sports. But if anyone has the discipline to master it, it's the kid from San Candido. What do you think about Rennae Stubbs' comments? Do you believe that something as simple as the color of a kit can actually influence a player's performance, or is this just a case of overanalyzing a coincidence? And looking ahead to the clay season, who is your pick to dominate? Can Sinner finally get the better of Alcaraz on the dirt, or is the Spaniard still the undisputed king of the slide? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear your take on the Sinner vs Alcaraz rivalry and whether Nike should take Stubbs' advice seriously. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more deep dives into the world of professional tennis here at Tennis Desk. We'll be following every step of the clay court swing, so stay tuned.